The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University is honored to be a supporter of Indian Country Today. Working with award-winning professors, Cronkite students learn news reporting, social media, shooting and editing videos, and producing content for communications industries. Cronkite's 15 professional programs give students the opportunity to cover critical issues throughout the U.S. and beyond. Learn more at cronkite.asu.edu.
This is Indian Country Today.
Esquili, yes, thank you for joining us. I'm Patty Thalohungva. Here are the headlines from Indian Country Today. A unanimous decision today by the Supreme Court that gives tribal police officers the right to detain and search non-natives. The case, United States versus Cooley, involved Joshua James Cooley, a non-native man. In 2016, he was found parked on the side of a highway that runs through the Crow Reservation. Tribal officers saw 2 guns on his front seat. They searched him and found a glass pipe and meth inside the truck. A federal grand jury indicted him on drug and gun charges, but Cooley fought the drug charges, saying they were found in an illegal search. The justices disagreed. Today's ruling says tribal police can temporarily detain and search non-natives on public rights-of-way that go through tribal lands. Canada is mourning the loss of 215 Indigenous children whose remains were uncovered at a First Nations residential school. Roseanne Casimir is the chief of the Kamloops Tsaypoemuk First Nations. She says ground-penetrating radar was used to find the remains near the site of the Kamloops Indian Residential School in British Columbia. It's one of hundreds in Canada where First Nations children were separated from their families and forced to attend. Some of the children who died at the school were as young as 3. Kamloops was opened by the Catholic Church. Later, it was turned over to the Canadian government and closed in 1978. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada was formed to examine the legacy of the schools. In its 2015 report, the Commission called the schools an act of cultural genocide. These schools, where abuse was commonplace, operated as recently as 1996. Across Canada, memorials are being created at legislative buildings and churches. In Winnipeg, 215 pairs of shoes were placed on the ground to symbolize each lost child. Now, Indigenous leaders are calling for the Canadian government to investigate every single residential school for other mass grave sites. Janie Hipp could make history by becoming the first Native woman to be the General Counsel for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. She is a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation and head of the Native American Agricultural Fund. President Joe Biden nominated her for the position. Hipp had her nomination hearing before the Senate Agriculture Committee last week. The Native Community Development Financial Institution Network sent a statement of support for Hipp, saying, "She is an experienced agriculture lawyer who has come up through the agricultural credit crisis to lead private, nonprofit, and federal offices. She is immensely qualified to serve our country as the General Counsel to USDA." Hipp still needs to go before the full Senate for a hearing and a vote. The fate of a contentious Columbus statue in California is being decided. The Chula Vista City Council voted 4-1 to permanently remove the statue from Discovery Park. Before the council meeting, the Kanap-Kwahan Coalition held a rally in support of the statue removal. Last year, the group petitioned the City Council to remove the statue, change the name of the park, and recognize Indigenous Peoples Day. Stanley Rodriguez is a council member for the San Isabel Band of the Lipan Nation and a member of the coalition. Rodriguez says the legacy of Columbus discounts Native Americans.
When we attended school, we heard that Columbus was the discoverer of America. And, what is that saying about our people? It discounts us, it marginalizes us, it dehumanizes us.
A task force made up of city officials, community members, and Kumeyaay tribal citizens will recommend a new name for Discovery Park. And the task force will also decide a new art that honors diversity and the Kumeyaay people. A Pueblo woman-owned architect firm is helping to restore Kiwa Pueblo's historic homes. Many of the homes were built hundreds of years ago. Every building is built the traditional way by mixing clay, straw, and water to make adobe bricks. And everything in the pueblo is built with adobe. In 2013 and 14, severe flooding and hailstorms damaged the houses, leaving the community without a clear path to repair them. But with a combination of CARES Act funding, eventually $3.4 million was collected to start construction in late October of last year. And within a few days, Elizabeth Swina, owner of Swina Designs Plus Architecture, was assessing homes. To read more about this story, go to our website, indiancountrytoday.com, and search for the headline, Rebuilding for the Centuries, Adobe Block by Block. And those are the headlines from Indian Country Today. I'm Patty Thalahungva. We've heard from many tribes in the Southwest and Great Plains about how they're doing in this pandemic. And when we come back, we'll check in with the Catawba Indian Nation in South Carolina to see how COVID-19 is impacting that community. As we continue to cover the coronavirus pandemic, we are checking in with tribal leaders to see how this global health crisis is impacting the people and the businesses. There is only one federally recognized tribe in South Carolina, and that's the Catawba Indian Nation. Bill Harris is the chief of the Catawba Indian Nation, which has more than 3,000 citizens enrolled in the tribe. And he joins us now to give us an update. Welcome, Chief Harris.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. I appreciate you recognizing those of us who are east of the Mississippi. So thank you.
Well, absolutely. And you think about how many years you've spent in politics, a couple of decades. In anything in your experience, did anything prepare you for this global pandemic?
I don't think this global pandemic anybody was prepared for. I don't know how you would actually prepare for something of this magnitude. When you look at the fact that you're facing an invisible enemy, it's kind of hard to map out a plan to defeat it. But I will say that, that the greater minds, far greater than mine, have actually decided, okay, let's go back to what Mother Nature has provided us, and that is herd immunity. And let's focus in on that. So I think we can do this. We just have to just get focused and make sure that everybody is aware that you can't just let somebody else carry the water for you on this one. You need to carry the water yourself.
And so when the pandemic really hit last summer, tell us about how that came about with your tribe. What was going on in terms of people getting sick or starting to social distance? What were the things that you put in place right away to make sure the Catawba people were safe?
Oddly enough, the first time in Catawba history, we declared a state of national emergency for the Catawba Nation. And with that, we imposed restrictions that had never been imposed on tribal citizens before. And the people responded in a positive way. In the beginning, they thought, well, why are we doing this? But once we were able to have the conversation with them and explain to them, this is something that we haven't experienced except going back to 1918. And with that, there were lives lost on these tribal lands in 1918, and we sure don't want to replicate that today. But with that being said, Catawba did lose some of its citizens and spouses of citizens because they've been with us for that time. They're almost like part of the community. Well, they are part of the community, they're just not part of the nation. But what the sad thing is we still, with that caution and all the alerts that we put out, there were still people who didn't respond to it, and that was the thing that I had trouble trying to understand.
Well, it's something that people, we've never had to deal with something like this, and being told to stay home and not be able to get out and go to our tribal ceremonies. I think that was the hardest thing, because across the board, if Indian people are anything, we're social, right? So how do you not be a part of that social society and stay safe? And so, how have the people responded? Because it's, we're now more than a year into the pandemic, and now we're looking at vaccines and people being able to get back together again. What has been that change?
I think one of the first changes we made was we did not convene the people to conduct tribal business. We made darn sure that that we weren't going to bring that many of our elders together, especially since the pandemic in the early days was targeting. It seemed to be it was targeting the elders more than anybody else. And that was where we decided, okay, we're not going to allow that to happen. And so we actually created a hybrid meeting situation where the first time ever we did virtual meetings, and Zoom became something new, and everybody got to understand what Zoom was. Prior to that, I didn't even know what Zoom was, but I had become really educated in how to do business virtually, and that at least that way we're trying to keep the community safe. So that was a plus. I am smarter now, technology wise. I'm not going to go find me a job with IBM or anybody else. I'll tell you that. But I can at least get onto a Zoom meeting by myself.
Well, certainly technology has played a big role in keeping people connected during this pandemic. You sit on an advisory board for the Indian Health Services, and when we looked at how IHS was rolling out the vaccination and even testing for the coronavirus, give us an idea of how that worked for your tribe. Was that a good process? Was it a good experience?
It was a very good experience for Catawba. I applaud IHS, Nashville area office, and how they addressed the situation with Catawba. We were able to get the vaccine quickly. The only question that came up with IHS was, are you going to do the Pfizer or the Moderna? And we ended up with Moderna, and I'll say that I'm happy that we did, due to the restrictions that came with Pfizer and how cold it had to be kept. So I think we came out ahead on that deal. I don't know how other indigenous communities responded to Moderna, but we had a good result with Moderna.
And is your tribal nation fully vaccinated now?
If only I could actually raise my hand and say, yes, we are fully vaccinated, I would be one happy individual. But we are not fully vaccinated. We still have some tribal citizens who are reluctant to take the vaccine because of some of the negative press that the vaccine has received. I think when you weigh it out, I still go back to, let's do this as a community so that we protect ourselves. We build that wall that allows us to be safe. So that's where I'm sort of looking for people to understand. I know that it is a sacrifice. I've had people say, well, Bill, I can't get off work. Well, we set up clinics on Saturdays to address that. So, we've given a lot of opportunities, and we keep sending out questionnaires to find out, okay, why, what is the problem? How can we resolve this?
Well, that's one thing that I think a lot of tribal leaders are starting to deal with, is getting people fully vaccinated. Let's look at your industries now. Red Heritage Media is one of the companies that your tribe owns. Has it been able to continue to produce videos and commercials during this pandemic?
Actually, that right there came to a halt with the pandemic. The one thing that has kept Red Heritage alive is we had some 8A contracts that were able to stay. We did have to reduce the workforce. We furloughed some people under 8A. We furloughed people at the tribal offices. It was all about trying to, stay safe, and knowing that, even though people were saying, when can I come back to work? It was all based upon, okay, let's look at the numbers, especially what's happening in South Carolina. And sometimes those numbers would go down, but then they would turn around and spike, heavily in a week's time. So we worked with the numbers to find out if we could actually come back, and we did come back. May 17th, we opened up the offices, not so much to the citizens, but they can come through an appointment. But we have staff on rotation so that we don't have everybody in the building at one time. We're trying to keep one person to an office, and make it so that you are being conscious of the staff and their families. And the other part is we're wearing masks while we're at work.
Is that something that you're going to continue even after the pandemic is declared to be over? Changes to the workplace, letting more people work from home?
What we have learned through this is I never thought that system would actually yield what it has yielded, but it seems to be the morale booster right now with staff. Of having to deal with the pandemic was bad enough, but I think the other part of it was some of them were concerned about work and how that was going to impact them, and working from home sort of gave them a sense of normalcy in an unnormal situation. So I see value in doing maybe creating, I like the word hybrid, creating a hybrid situation where you don't spend every minute at the office, but you're still able to get the work done. So I was really pleased with how staff were able to adjust to that, and some of them have even said, I thought I'd like this, but I don't know if I can actually be home with my kids another year.
Well, a lot of different scenarios there. Really quickly, was your community fully counted in the census?
I would say yes, we were. We made darn sure that we were counted. We had people who came from the Census Bureau. They came to the reservation. Well, they actually started talking with us long before the census was started. So we got a good education on that, and we prepared staff for that, knowing that at some point we were going to have to walk some of these census takers up to doors. So yeah, I'm gonna say I think we did, unless the data was lost somewhere in transition.
So one last question very quickly as we wrap up here. What do you want people to know about how the Catawba Indian Nation has fared in this pandemic?
Well, I think what I'd like for everybody worldwide to know, perseverance is within all of us. I think some of us excel at it, and some of us are just now becoming aware of what it takes to persevere adverse situations. But I think indigenous people, especially in America, have had a long lesson in perseverance, and we have shown that we can persevere under many adverse conditions. And Catawba has been here for 6,000 years, and we're probably going to be here for another 6,000 years.
Very good. Well, Chief Bill Harris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, and I thank you for this opportunity, and I'm grateful there is something called Indian Country today.
Thank you. And we'll be right back. Like many things, sports are slowly coming back to Indian Country. And since there's so much happening in the world of Indian Country sports, we are creating a monthly segment to get updates on Native athletes. And we have invited Brent Cowie to give us this monthly update. Brent is the co-founder of the very popular website Indiansports.com, which covers Native athletes in high school, college, and even pro sports. And he's been on our program before. Welcome back, Brent.
Hello, Patty. Glad to be back on the show again. Hope everyone's doing fine.
Thank you. Well, this summer, all eyes are on the Olympics and who's going to make those USA teams. There's a Comanche woman who's hoping to make one team. Tell us about her.
Yes, Janae Casanovoid. She's a competitor in the hammer throw event. And a few weekends ago, she competed at the USA Track and Field Throw Festival in Tucson, Arizona. And she set a personal record in the hammer throw for 75.5 meters, which is a personal best for her. She's trying to make the Olympic team in the event, and she had three American competitors finish in front of her. So now she'll head to the USA Olympic trials in Eugene, Oregon on June 18th through 27th to trying to get that one of those top three spots. The top three finishers get automatic bids to compete for the Team USA in Tokyo for the Summer Olympics. She's been competing at a high level for the past 5 or 6 years now. She was a junior college national champion. She was a two-time Big 12 hammer throw champion as well. And she's been training with a professional trainer for the event at Louisiana State University for the past 6 months or now to try to obviously make the team.
How close is she? What kind of odds do you give her?
I think she has a pretty good chance to get that third spot. She's really going to have to peak at the Eugene, Oregon Olympic trials. But if she doesn't, she can be selected as an alternative, which means she'll go with the team, but she won't compete. She would only compete if any of the other competitors got hurt while they were there.
Wow, so we're keeping an eye on her. So by the end of June, she should know if she's made the team.
Yeah, we'll be watching closely. Obviously, with COVID on, they're allowing fans at the Olympic trials events, but they're still restricting media access. So we'll be covering from a virtual standpoint, and we'll be following her and interviewing her through the process.
All right, and then so we'll keep an eye on her and see how she does in June there. So now let's talk about the NBA G League. First, explain a little bit about the G League, and then talk about the Native athletes who are hoping to join that league as well.
Well, actually it's called the Basketball League. We have 3 Native athletes in the Basketball League. They play for a professional team out of Enid, Oklahoma. They're called the Enid Outlaws. The Basketball League is basically a semi-professional league where players can get called up to the G League, which is the preparation league for the NBA, or also they can be directly pulled up from the NBA as well. But the 3 athletes that we have on the team are Lindy Waters III, who's Kiowa and Cherokee. He most recently graduated from Oklahoma State University. We also have Wayne Runnels, who's a Cheyenne Arapaho. He played at Creighton University for his collegiate years. And then finally, we have Chance Comanche, who is Choctaw and Comanche, who played at U of A, University of Arizona, for his collegiate career. Their team has tied for one of the best records in the league. So they've been 1, 2, 3, the top scorers for their program, and they've been doing really well since they started playing this season.
And so, Lindy, what position does Lindy play?
Lindy's a forward, guard, and Wayne is a forward, and Chance is a 6'10" center. And he's basically leading the league in scoring as well. So there's some really good players, and I'm looking for them to really have an outstanding season, or possibly even get called up to the G League or NBA.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's really exciting. And of course, we're also keeping an eye. I'm a big WNBA fan, and watching Chelsea Dungy play with the Dallas Wings. And so, quick update: how's she doing?
She's a rookie, and like a lot of the rookies, they're still learning where they fit into the system, where they fit with the other players. Certainly, Chelsea is a talented athlete. She had a lot of great success at the University of Arkansas. She was a top 10 draft pick, and right now, with a lot of the rookies, they kind of are learning the system, and they kind of come in and play cleanup minutes at the moment until they can learn the system. But she's a fan favorite. She's probably, has a really good shot to have a long career in the league. So we're definitely looking forward to following her and her career as it progresses through the WNBA.
All right. Well, all eyes on the WNBA from my perspective here, and also the Connecticut Sun with their beautiful uniforms that reflect the Mohegan culture. So keeping an eye out on that too. We have just about a minute left here, Brent. Let's talk quickly about some of the high school competitions you've attended that possibly have some college scholarship offers.
Yeah, definitely. I've been to about 3 res ball tournaments. I shouldn't say res ball tournaments, but high school prep tournaments in the past month or so. I've been to Oklahoma City, Phoenix, and Kansas, and I ran into a young gentleman by the name of Juju Ramirez, who's from the Turtle Mountain Chippewa tribe, and he's an outstanding athlete playing at a prep school in New Hampshire, and he has a scholarship. He has a scholarship offer from the University of Kansas Jayhawks, which is one of the top blue blood programs in all of college basketball. So he's a class of 2022, and he's still working on his game, still working to get better. And it was just a good opportunity for me to sit down and interview him and follow his career as well.
All right. Well, we look forward to the next update. Thank you so much for joining us, Brent.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. Join us again tomorrow and online at IndianCountryToday.com. Take care of yourselves. Your life is precious. I'm Patty Thalahungva.
Sometimes you got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run. Standing rock. This is Indian Country Today.